Logistics is a big problem in 2025.
Everyone has to undercut everyone until you think like that's got to be the bottom. I never really thought I'd see the rates this low again post-COVID.
From fluctuating carrier rates to tariffs on the horizon, the industry is facing a lot of uncertainty.
There's just got to be a lot of companies out there that are struggling.
So I sat down with the people from OTR Solutions, a company who's building a new AI-powered platform focused on empowering carriers and even detecting fraud.
This is going to allow carriers to get paid at any time of day, 24 hours a day. All of our algorithm includes fraud detection. We actually are buying better now than a human does.
Join us for this talk where we'll be discussing the future of freight, how companies can still take advantage of the current market, and how OTR is revolutionizing the way carriers operate. A flip phone, a fax machine, and a pager walk into a bar. The bartender says, "What is this, a museum?" Technology moves fast. What was cutting edge 20 years ago is now more nostalgia than necessity. Sure, a flip phone can still make calls just fine, and a fax machine technically works okay. But why settle for fine when you can have better? If your back office technology still relies on email inboxes and manual workflows, it's time for an upgrade courtesy of ePay Manager powered by OTR Solutions. With ePay Manager, you can modernize your processes, streamline invoice audits, and automate payments with proactive workflows that don't rely on those email inboxes. The result? Faster invoicing, stronger security, and 50% lower back office costs. Don't let your business get stuck in the past like that pager you stopped carrying in 1999. Visit epaymanager.com or text ePayFC to 80483 to bring your back office into the modern age. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's episode, I did want to take a second to tell you a little bit about our new sponsor, Levity.ai. In freight, time is money and efficiency is key. That's where Levity comes in. Imagine automating your email operations to do more with less effort. Levity connects directly to your inboxes, extracting vital information from emails and attachments in real time. It seamlessly integrates with your TMS, empowering you to quote faster, build loads more efficiently, and book more freight in less time. Whether it's incoming emails from shippers or carriers, Levity's got you covered. It understands any language, any format, and even interprets non-standard formatting. Visit it Levity.ai today to sign up and get started. Today's episode is brought to you by Wirebee, the AI-powered call automation platform designed to supercharge your freight brokerage. Tired of wasting time on unqualified carriers? Wirebee helps you cover loads faster by screening calls, preventing fraud, and letting your reps focus on high-value connections. Plus, it seamlessly integrates your TMS and compliance tools. Get more done in less time with smarter call handling. Check out Wirebee.com to see how it works. Today's podcast is also brought to you by FreightFlex. Ready to take control of your future? Freight agencies are everywhere, but how do you pick the right one? At FreightFlex, we're proud to offer the #1 freight agent program in the nation, backed by an unmatched tech stack and a world-class support team. It's time to ditch the corporate grind and build your own freight agency powerhouse. Take charge, earn what you're worth. Contact us today for a tech demo and see why FreightFlex is where business owners are built. I woke up in Guadalajara, flew here, and Bob, you just flew in from Charlotte.
I did.
Yeah. Well, Grace and Jam actually flew in from Atlanta last night, yesterday. So tell us what's going on. Like, how are you? How's everything going?
Yeah, everything's been great, man. We've been getting into conference season, so that's always a lot of fun. The TIA one is always a pretty hot start to it. The business-wise, it's been a little bit of a crazy start to the year. I feel like every time we take one step forward, it's 2 steps back a little bit from a freight rate perspective, but it's been good. The go-to-market, the energy in the office seems to continue to climb, which is the first time we've had that in a few years, I think. So there's at least optimism across the place. But business has been good. It's been a little nutty, but it's all been great stuff so far.
Yeah, I actually got here Monday because I was supposed to go to the national championship game if Duke had won. So crazy story, like one of our best trucking companies that we've worked with for years and years and years, since we started 14 years ago, is James Brothers Transportation. And Elbridge James, his son, Sion, is the starting guard for Duke.
Wow.
And so I've known this kid since he was like 7, of him playing basketball and growing up in the sport. And now he's finally on like the #1 team in the country. And so Elbridge was like, if they make it to the championship, you're coming. So I changed my flight because the game happened to be here, right?
Yeah. And
TIA was happening. And this is my favorite conference, by the way. Everybody's here. It's always so fun, so many brokers. But then Duke lost. So Monday night, I should have just done the lazy river by myself.
Right.
I kind of want to circle back. So you said in the beginning, I just kind of want to see how your business, because you mentioned business. You said you've taken a step forward and 2 steps back. What have you guys been kind of dealing with since the beginning of the year? Like, what's some aspects that's kind of set in?
Yeah, totally. And when I mean that, I kind of mean more from a market perspective, right? From a freight rate side of things. But our business, we're very fortunate and blessed that we've got a very aggressive, high volume sales team that continues to move the business forward, capture additional market share. But it's a little bit harder to do that when freight rates continue to just pull backwards, right? So that's more what I meant about you have 1 week where it looks like maybe capacity tight, freight rates are up, X%, and then the following week you're like, oh my God, what happened, right? And so it's, I think we had a little bit of a taste where we thought we were going to see some of the cyclical freight cycles that everybody's used to. Hasn't really happened yet. Everything else going on in the world, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
It's kind of the same thing for us, like I run a trucking company in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, do you guys feel the same way?
And it's the same way. Like one day, it's like you have a good day. You're like, okay, this is where it's going to churn. It's going to get a little better. And then the next day, it just kind of dies out again. So it's like you're always expecting for a little bit to get better, but just got to push through it.
Yeah, you have conversations with clients and it's that hot week, right? It's like capacity's tight, we're getting what we want out of our customers. You celebrate the next week, you talk to them again and they're like, it all evaporated, right? What the heck happened? So it's been very unique and interesting.
We didn't know some of the jumps were happening, like obviously with all the tariff talk, like people trying to get the freight moved. But for us, like our business is completely tied to the freight rate. It's the same amount of work for us to purchase a $1,200 invoice as it is a $1,500 one. So obviously, when the carriers do better, we do better. And so, which is why we are constantly trying to deliver them like information and data on ask for more. But right now, it's like, we're following the trends in the market. It doesn't seem like anyone can ask for more. It's like
That's what I keep telling the brokers. I'm like, you guys have to ask for more from my customers. And they're like, if we do that, somebody just comes in and underbids us. We lose all the freight, So it's so weird the way it works because we ask more for the brokers as a carrier, and we tell the brokers, hey, ask more from your customers. But then they're like, we can't because then we have a million other brokers that are fighting for thousands of brokers.
Right.
Everyone has to undercut everyone until you think like that's got to be the bottom. And lately, I never really thought I'd see the rates this low again post-COVID. We all thought like what would be the new normal after COVID. And I can't tell you I would have guessed it's where it is today for us. Like it's just, I feel really bad for the carriers. Obviously, like especially owner operators, it's harder for them. They're working in the spot. So the spot, is lower right now. But the tariff talk is not helping anybody. So I think all this hope that 2025 is going to pick up.
Right.
Are we all, I guess we're all looking a little bit more bearish than we did earlier.
So in terms of like the market and since you own a trucking company, you probably know this better since you're feeling it every day.
Yeah.
Like compared to last year, like, is it better or is it the same or is it worse?
For me, I would just say it's almost the same, but you kind of gotten used to it. You know what I'm saying? Like you were expecting it to go up, but now you're kind of like just immune to it. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but as you kind of got used to it and you're just kind of going with the flow. The craziest part is like when we tell the brokers like, hey, do you know what the operation cost of a trucking company is? And they just get mad. They get mad. They're like, this isn't what the market is. And I'm like, well, for me to take that load, I would have to take a loss on it. As soon as I'm taking a loss, like, there's no point for me to be in that business.
Right.
But then they get mad about it when I tell them that. But actually, there's an article that was just released by I forgot, it's ATR or something, what the actual operation costs, and it's like $235 a mile.
Oh, yeah.
It's wild.
And the brokers, some of them are offering like $150, on lanes that should be paid way more than that. And California died out. Like we run a lot of California stuff, so California died out for us a lot within the probably 2-3 months, It went from paying, $5,500 coming back to east to like $3,500 now.
Oh, yeah.
So,
There's just so many hard costs in the trucking operation that don't exist in the freight brokerage world, right? It's different costs, but to your point about the broker getting mad about it, you guys can't force insurance to decrease. You can't force fuel prices to go down. And so for a trucking company, it's hard to get lean. Your only way to get lean is shedding equipment, shedding drivers, which is what nobody wants to do, right? And so I think that's kind of that unique dynamic where in the freight brokerage world, you can cut waste easily, and maybe not easily, but easier than for a trucking company. You can increase efficiencies in your back office. You can pull different levers to get lean and continue to bid against the other players in that rat race to the bottom. For the trucking company, you can't do that, right?
Yeah, there's only so much that you can do, like probably cut drivers' pay. Insurance, you can't. Everybody's insurance that I've talked to actually went up. Like our insurance was supposed to go down because this is our 5th year in business with the trucking. company, and it was supposed to go down, and it never went down. You know, like they were like, sorry, the market is just going
Well,
up.
interest rates keep going up, though.
They just keep going up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nuclear verdicts and everything. But to your point, I agree with you. And I was curious if that's what you're going to say about the outlook, right? I think, well, it hasn't gotten much better. Maybe it's not much worse. People are used to it now, which I think is different. We spent a couple of years with it just being such a unique world that it was hard to know what the next month was going to look like. It's still kind of that way, but at least you know how to weather that. It's a little less sticker shock from the ebbs and flows, I guess.
I still think that there's more change to come, though. I mean, I'm a firm believer that most of the trucking companies that are still in business right now are the ones that have their trucks paid for, their equipment paid for. But like, if there are companies out there that still, have notes, like, I don't know, I think we're still going to see some capacity leave the market because I think everybody was holding out. Like, it's finally going to pick up, and produce season will certainly be like a big indicator. If we don't see rates shift during produce season, they're probably not going to through the summer. And there's just got to be a lot of companies out there that are struggling.
Yeah, there's going to be, I feel like, more companies that are shutting down.
Yeah.
How's produce season been so far, like this year?
It won't start until like early May-ish.
Yeah,
so you won't see it.
5 reefers, 6 reefers that we run, I haven't really seen nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm wondering, because like obviously there's like the sentiment, it's kind of bearish now. It was quite bullish in November with the election, and everyone thought, okay, we're going to have a hot freight market coming soon. And now it's more like, okay, we're probably getting ready for it to get worse, potentially. But I'm curious because like I feel like there's always opportunities in the market, the strong will survive.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, where are those opportunities? Where do you think those opportunities are? Like for people that are listening and could like, kind of navigate the waters. Like what should people be planning for? Like, do you have ideas on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that and kick it to JMac too, because, on the carrier side, it's, about to run upstairs right now for media day and make this announcement that, OTR is shifting, and, we're about to launch the OTR 365 ecosystem, which essentially means we have a high growth, the platform for carriers that is a high performance platform, for carriers that allows them to succeed. And when I say that, it means we're utilizing our automation and AI, which we're calling OTR intelligence. And this is going to allow carriers to get paid at any time of day, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. No more waiting for banking hours, no more wait on the weekends, no more wait after 5 p.m. If they need a payment, they're going to get paid right then and there. And so, our idea being that like we do genuinely keep the carriers moving and getting paid instantly, and they'll be able to drop those PODs, not even input any of the details. It reads everything and it pays them instantly. And certainly on the broker side with ePay, like we truly feel like, brokers are out there trying to figure out carrier payments, have a lot of human involvement in that. And, if you want to scale and do it for less, ePay Manager is an incredible solution, also utilizing the same automation, the same AI, and the same algorithms that we've used on the carrier side to learn how to, and perfect, and take that over to the broker side and say, hey, look, you don't need to be auditing these things anymore. Our system does it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think kind of playing off of that, the comment that Bob was making about just cost on the trucking side. We can't support everything, right? I can't force the insurance companies to drop rates. We can't, like we talked about, can't force fuel prices to go lower, but we can weaponize our technology, weaponize our capital, and put it in the hands of our clients, whether it's a trucking client or a freight brokerage client, to really let them focus on accelerating growth, driving revenue, and grabbing more business, grabbing more market share. I do think in this kind of unique environment, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I think relationships are going to come back into play a little bit more than maybe they have in the past X amount of time. The trucking company that can service the broker and help them keep their customers, keep their shippers at a higher rate than what they've been leveraging over the past, 6 to 8 months, where it's just been, hey, lowest carrier wins, right? I think brokers are going to start leaning into relationships a little bit more. And I think on the freight brokerage side, with the fraud, with the risk, with all the different things that are happening, it's opening their eyes up a little bit as well, that I need to go back to my more trusted carrier market, right? Carrier capacity. And so to Grace's point, leveraging the technology that we've developed internally, putting it externally out in the market to let others use should allow for really hyper accelerated adoption of some of these different things that everybody is looking to automate, that everybody's looking to improve today, because we're not a new technology that came into the space and said, hey, trust my technology, right? We use it every single day.
Yeah.
And so it's an added benefit of having a top, 2 or 3 largest factoring company in the space, taking everything that they've built and making it available to every trucking company, every freight brokerage in the market. I just think it's going to give, self-servingly, we think it's going to allow us to be positioned to be a true partner and less of a vendor that is just offering a service into the space, if that makes sense. So I guess to your original question, I think relationships are going to be a big opportunity. I think positioning yourself, whether you're a trucking company or freight brokerage, to continue doing what you have historically done well, but do it at a higher rate is really the opportunity most should be trying to seize in this market right now, because you don't know what's going to happen. So that's kind of my outside looking in thought about the carrier and brokerage.
So just to circle back, so now you're saying OTR is going to do a thing for people that are watching and that are driving and need their money right away. So as soon as you do the delivery, you basically send your PODs and you can get paid right away.
Yeah. On the mobile app, you'll be able to upload your POD and within minutes get paid. And yeah, we call this OTR intelligence and intelligent factoring. We're bringing that to the ePay side as well later this year, but this summer we'll be launching this OTR 365 ecosystem, which really allows, because we recognize that since we started, we wanted to be the factoring company for small and mid-sized carriers,
right.
Owner operators, and how do you have them truly compete in market? They don't have the same dollars to invest in technology, but we can bring this to all of them so that they can compete against the larger carriers. And so part of that is also just getting them paid more quickly, helping them understand where they stop for fuel and can get the best discount. They didn't have that technology before. Where should they stop? I think I'll just stop at the X station because that's where I've always stopped. And it's no, go down the road and you're saving an extra 55 cents per gallon. That's kind of a big deal. And so getting them paid very, very quickly and not having to input anything anymore, because I can't tell you how many times the carriers will put in national transportation, something, and it's not even the broker at all. And then obviously that causes issues. So it's we got this. We know who to bill.
Right.
We know what we should send out.
What if the load is double broker? How would you know who to bill?
So we also built in fraud, very, very, it's taken a really long time, but honestly, all of our algorithm includes fraud detection that we've learned over the years. We actually are buying better now than a human does, even though the humans understand our own SOPs. Imagine you're tired, you're busy, you're just trying to get through the day.
Trying to book a $3 mile load.
Yeah.
Can't pay attention.
Right.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden it's these things get through because maybe you were spot checking before. I mean, honestly, OTR got to the point where it was we would have invoices. You couldn't possibly manually audit every single one. You had to begin to spot check, right, to purchase.
Right.
Now, NLP, every single invoice runs through our automation and is read, and every single document is, audited by the system and is flagged with all of these different things. I mean, thousands of rules that we've created, and it's taken years to develop this.
Right.
But it surfaces immediately what's an issue, what's fraud, what we think is double brokering, what rate is out of its norm. I could go on and on, but I can't tell everybody what we do. Bob, stop asking.
So say I'm a carrier though, and I want to switch to OTR, right?
Yeah.
You guys have the normal standard factoring, which is, bill it once a week, because that's what we do right now. We bill it once a week and then we get, the whole check the next day or whatever. Are you guys still going to have them out, or is everything going to be switched to, right away direct payments? Say I can bill it today. Me, say as a trucking company, is it still, I guess, what I'm trying to ask, what's going to be the price difference between, are carriers going to pay a little bit more to get that on time, or right away, instant payment, I should say, instead of waiting that day, or is it going to be all the same rates that you got locked in?
That's a really great question. So it's the same price as if you wanted the instant funding during regular business hours, just available anytime.
Okay.
For you in that instance that you just described, where you only bill once a week, you can still just do that if you want. Because initially this is just really off the mobile app, which you probably do is, drop. So like we fund it all at once. So it wouldn't change that for you. But like, let's say that you wanted to start getting paid more often or on the weekends, or
Like,
maybe it's a holiday, you
having
can.
a rough week.
Yeah.
And need the money,
Yeah.
like right away instead of waiting the next day.
Yeah.
Okay. So
It would be literally in the portal, and it will say, this is what's available to you to take. Do you want it? It's very similar to like a Venmo, right? This is my balance. Do I want to deposit my account? Yes, today I do. No, I don't right now. I'm going to wait till the end of the week, and then I'll do it all at once.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really smart payment model to help carriers kind of tell us like, release the funds. Is that available to me? Great, release it.
Yeah, and the main reason we're referring to it more as an ecosystem and not just 365 days a year factoring is that it's every component of what we do you can take advantage of 24/7, 365. So think about fuel, right? Think about the business banking account.
Yeah.
Anything that in today's world you're having to rely on a customer service rep or an account manager to help facilitate some part of that transaction, we've got the logic built in on the back end that it can be essentially automated and then purchased, funded, approved with a very high degree of confidence. In a fraudulent world like we live in, right, we have to be very confident that the algorithms and the business logic that's being used are making the right decision in order to purchase an invoice. But think about the fuel world. This is where you guys may look to leverage it more. You only fund once a week, but how often are your overnight dispatcher, your track and trace getting calls about needing an advance, right? Or that my credit limit on my fuel card's tapped out, or whatever the unique kind of fringe or use case is. We want to have the ability to process that and support that 24 hours a day without having to rely on a team being available to answer that call, if that makes sense. So it's not looking to remove people or to automate everybody's jobs by any means, but it's looking to make every single employee that we have more powerful, make them more efficient, make every single client that we have, give them the ability to leverage really anything that they're using our companies for 24/7, regardless of where they are, what time of day it is, et cetera. So
like, just to like summarize a little bit on like where does the opportunity lie in terms of like right now with like the kind of like bearish outlook and pessimistic kind of like, I guess, like views on the market. Like there's like the tech, right? You need to have like a strong tech stack. There's a lot of tech out there nowadays. Tech's getting cheaper. Like essentially you need it to like survive nowadays. And then at the same time, you got to focus on the long-term relationships, like Jay and you mentioned earlier. And I'm wondering now, like, so like for anyone that's listening, carrier, to broker, like you got to make sure your tech stack's right. You got to make sure you're focused on building those long-term relationships, and that's where you're investing a lot of time and effort. And when you look at like the tech stack, like what do you think, like what kind of tech is like necessary nowadays that wasn't maybe like a few years ago, like to differentiate yourself? Like
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think first, when I think about the technology that's entered our space in particular, there's some really sick products, right? There's a lot of really cool stuff coming into the market where I get a little weary of some of those, like how new is it to our industry? I think you guys have been in it a long time, but it's like trucking, logistics, it's a different animal, right? You can't just enter it tomorrow with a bunch of VC cash and build something that's going to work for every sort of fringe case. Right. And so I think the players that are evolving, building the product for actual specific everyday needs of a trucking company, of a freight brokerage are the ones that are going to win. And so I think when you're evaluating a tech stack, to your original point, that's what I'm personally looking for, is how well does this vendor or technology or partner, however you want to refer to it, how well do they know our space? What's their experience look like, and how have they battle tested the technology against it? Do they have decades of adoption? Do they have countless data points that they've been leveraging in order to build the model? Or is it something that they just claim it's going to change the industry for the better, right? So, that's kind of how I personally look at it when I'm trying to evaluate the different technologies. But as far as what's needed today that maybe wasn't before, I don't know if that's truly the situation. I think a lot of technologies have always been needed, but in a really hot freight market where rates are high, right? Everybody's winning. You just don't think about it. So, from a back office perspective is where we live. I mean, a factoring company is basically a brokerage back office where purchasing invoices from carriers and then billing our end customer, which most of the time is a broker, but could also be a shipper. We've been working on automation on that side of things, getting more lean, more efficient, for our 14, 15 years in business. And so that's what we're leaning hard into for both the trucking company and the freight brokerage world, is get more efficient with everything post-delivery. It's a forgotten part of an operation, but it can be one of your highest costs, right? It's a hard cost that every time a human being is touching an invoice, is touching a POD, is touching issuing a lumper receipt, after the delivery. That's a more expensive load that you just had run through your organization, right? So I think a lot of people have started to focus more in on that, are trying to automate things a little bit better, but there's also the trust factor with AI. I don't want to trust a technology to do my job for me. I'm still better at it. So back to the point about finding a vendor that has battle tested the tech is a big piece. So back office automation is something that I think everyone should be looking into if they're not. And I don't just mean payments from that perspective. I mean, the document audit Grace talked about, some of those other things. But then a lot of the cool stuff with the AI, the voice intelligence type things is still new to me, and I don't know if I personally trust it all yet, but I think it's silly to not be looking into it for simple mundane tasks like check calls on drivers, things that right now you're having to use a human to operate. Automate a lot of those different things, so your most valuable resources, your employees, are focused on revenue drivers and actual kind of high value tasks, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my gut. And back office automation, then the voice AI stuff. I don't know if there's anything else that you...
I mean, no, I think you touched on it. I think I would just add, like, in thinking about it like that, like right now with the market being as tight as it is and every dollar and cent counting, anything that protects the wallet, right? And when I think about that, I think about protection and security against fraud, because it is so damn rampant right now. And, even the latest fraud scheme that I've seen with, there's now agent lease-on collaboration within the brokerages, which if any broker is listening, please, if you hire agents, please do your due diligence, because I have seen it now across several reputable brokers. But then, if they can get into it.
Or they can.
Grace, can you, because you had a video about this.
Yeah.
So can you explain this
Yes.
for our audience exactly what you're talking about?
Okay. So essentially a reputable broker who has an agent model, right? So they hire agent. Yeah. So,
explain it.
yeah. So the agent model, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the agents all over they have agents posted all over the country, sort of like remote freight brokers that work for the brokerage.
So kind of like Landstar had it.
Very much.
It's
It's exactly, yes.
Little satellite offices all over
Yes.
the country.
Yeah, because I think there is a lot of brokers that are doing that.
Yes. So they hire an agent. The agent actually works for the reputable broker, like a Landstar, although I have not seen this with Landstar at all. So Landstar, don't get mad. Then what happens is the broker, the agent that is hired, then calls a carrier within the brokerage and says, hey, you run freight for us. I have another carrier who also runs freight for us, but they just lost their insurance. They would love to lease onto you. We've given them dedicated freight that they've run for months for us. They do such a great job, but they need an MC. We know that you've worked with us as well. Would you be open to the lease on carrier coming under your MC so they can continue to run our dedicated freight? The good carrier says, sure, yeah, wow, too good to be true. They're going to pay me 10% of these loads just to use my MC, and it's coming from the broker I trust to say, hey, I've got this carrier. So all of a sudden, the lease-on carrier starts sending paperwork to the legitimate carrier over here. They start sending it back to the broker and billing. They send it to their factoring company. The factoring company buys it, bills the broker. We send the money to the carrier. The carrier then shifts it off to the leased on. Okay. And then by the time the broker back office realizes these invoices don't exist, these loads are not there. They were in the system. The factoring company was able to verify the loads in the system because the agent actually built them, but nobody was verifying that they were legit. So you can go to different, broker portals, and they were there and they were marked delivered because the agent's doing his job. Yes, dispatch it. Yes, mark it delivered, blah, blah, blah. But then it goes to accounting. Accounting bills a shipper bills their customer. And the customer says, what the hell is this? You guys didn't move any freight for me. By the time everyone realizes it and the carriers, they're gone. The agent never existed. The lease on never existed. It was a fraud scheme the whole time. And it is happening over and over and over again. And so and who's responsible? Because the broker told the factoring company these loads exist. They're delivered. They're there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's the agent.
And these poor carriers, like, then
Yeah,
they
then the
get the
agent
money.
disappears,
Yeah,
right?
the agent disappears.
Like I'm just saying the broker
Yeah.
hired the agent.
Yeah, the
Right,
broker
right.
hired the agent. They
Yeah.
didn't do their due diligence,
Yeah.
100%. So that is also sort of our argument.
No,
That's
wild.
crazy.
It's
You gotta be
it's-
careful though.
Yes.
If someone calls you.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
So I've heard of this agents that are happening, and then there's a few brokers that are doing that whole thing now.
Yeah.
I noticed these brokers that are agents, they're doing a lot of sketchy stuff.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm not gonna say what.
Yeah,
but they're
yeah, yeah.
doing a lot
There's
of
a lot of
stuff.
agents out there.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're
Yeah.
doing a lot of sketchy stuff.
I mean, it depends who, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
Well, this is the.
There's so much less
these are-
control.
Well, there's
right?
less control,
Just that we
right?
work with. And
Yeah.
now, like, we're these agents that are not from the main offices or whatever, that are just overseas or whatever. They're like, yeah, there's a lot of
you gotta be
sketchy stuff
careful.
going on.
Yeah, you got to be careful. And I think brokers are about to realize that now and be like, wow, we can't trust the way we hired before. We can't assume that everything's legitimate anymore. And like, they're about to need, I mean, not to be so self-promoting, but it's like, yeah, you need an ePay manager. Like, you need someone that's auditing your documents the second they come in, not 30 days from now when the customer decides to tell you, I'm not paying this.
Yeah.
So I'm actually curious, Chris, can you walk us through that? Like, so let's just say, for example, a brokerage is
Yeah.
using ePay manager and they had this like kind of sketchy agent send these like fake loads. How would ePay detect that? How would that work?
So the PODs that were created were obviously fake.
Yeah.
There were things on there that we would have seen that are not typical, whether it's a domain, and I don't want to give away like our own, obviously, like proprietary, the way that we detect the fraud, because honestly, I think we're really incredible at what we do, but then obviously we've taught a vendor what we are looking for. So it is available, but for anyone, but ePay allows us to immediately go, things look off, and escalate it to the broker and say, will you take a look at this? Because this does not look like it's right.
Yeah.
Like a real world use case, think about like a Walmart POD, right? Like we're seeing so many different Walmart PODs from so many different facilities across the country, across so many different freight brokers. We can recognize which ones require a stamp versus a signature, right? Or whatever all those different kind of fringe use cases are. So it's more likely that our tech and our people can spot something like that and say, whoa, this looks off, right? This has Walmart's name on the top, but this isn't what the rest of their documents traditionally look like, right? And so being able to aggregate a lot of that for fraud detection purposes is what makes that engine so powerful. So we're saying, hey, the PO number doesn't match what's in your TMS, which should be your first check, right? And whoever the broker is should say, wait, let's double check. But to Grace's point, these were legitimate loads in the TMS. So then how do we spot for it?
Yeah.
Well, the easiest way to do that is actually looking at the documents and does this look legitimate, right? And
So we can say the broker, this POD does not look like the rest that we typically see.
yeah.
So like on top of the fact that like you're doing like the back office, you're also detecting like potential fraud. That's great.
Now we're actually also monitoring lease on agreements. So we obviously, like when we see a carrier's, credit usage go up, we obviously can then go, okay, what's going on here? We ask for lease on agreements, they send them. We're now feeding those into our automation to track all of that, because like a human trying to track lease on agreements across thousands of carriers, like, I don't want that job. So we put this into a different sort of, we keep all of these together. We run them through the automation. And so we're able to do that. When we did, that's how we caught fraud this last time, because carriers had 3 of the same lease-ons. So that lease-on company was obviously fake.
Same
Right.
PIN number, same signature across multiple different businesses.
So
right?
now if we have to ask for a lease on agreement, that comes back, like any one of these come on and we know it's fraud. And we're trying to figure this out, because it's like, we all have to work together, and, we're happy to work with any other brokerages, factoring. We told carriers out there, like, even if you hear my warning, like, don't do this, if someone calls you, send it to us. Even if you should say, I'm not interested, thanks so much. Like, the more we can all be aware of like what we should be looking for and what these names are and who these names are, we have to combat this, because this is actually a big one. This is a number that can get out of control if other factors and brokers are not aware of how to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Out of control.
And there's a lot of cool technologies out there that are helping with this, but there's just more data is needed, right? More collaboration is needed. So to Grace's point, we want to work with all the other players to say, hey, look, here's a fraud scene that we detected today, right? And that's why she put a video out about it, to start telling the story. And I mean, and again, that's across all fronts, right? And I mentioned it earlier, but the technology is only as strong as the data that it's been fed, right? So pulling players together that have the data that they've made available, that have trained their engines against it, is what's really delivering impactful, actionable results. Yeah.
I mean, it's great that you're able to get the word out there and also detect fraud, so we could eliminate or at least work on eliminating that.
It's the goal.
Yeah, in the industry. Real quick, I know we have to start wrapping up because we have TIA Media Day, started 10 minutes ago, so we're running a little bit behind. Since, Bob, you're from Charlotte, you both are from Atlanta, I kind of wanted to talk a little about the geography, just real quick. Kind of want to, who are the big major players in each city? Who are the major players in logistics in Atlanta, and who are the major players in Charlotte?
Oof.
You have obviously Nolan.
Midway.
Yeah.
Or from carrier.
Midway, Charlotte, yeah.
Yeah,
So
from carrier perspective.
we visited Midway 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then who else? There's RXO is based in Charlotte, right?
We have an office in
is based.
Yeah, Armstrong's got a good shop there.
Yeah, but I'm talking more headquarters.
I think Armstrong's headquarters there.
Armstrong, yeah.
Yeah,
Charlotte,
Armstrong
yeah.
is. Yeah, they got
Armstrong's headquarters is in Charlotte?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
That's where they started. They may have moved it back.
We have obviously Beyond now, which is NTG and Transportation Insight TI.
Yeah.
Both of those combined, which their office is stunning. Have you been?
No, I've not.
You have not? Bob. Okay, y'all, you're coming.
what's his name? Kevin?
Kevin
Yeah.
on? We were in Chicago with Kevin.
Chicago.
Yeah.
And that
was a good time.
I'm sure those stories you probably can't tell. But
Yeah,
just being honest.
Why is everybody laughing?
that's good.
I feel like I'm awkward. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously OTR in Atlanta, but
Yeah, OTR Solutions
right.
is the biggest.
Yeah.
yeah, and Coyote was there. Rest in peace. But,
Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
and we have TQL and CH have offices there, but not headquartered, obviously.
Atlanta's turned into a really good spot for
Southern Rains Logistics?
for the kind of entrepreneur SMB brokers that's wanting to scale. You see a lot of people that are coming out of the NTG, CH, TQL trees to stand up businesses, and have seemed to found really kind of a home. I feel like in the Alpharetta and the North Georgia kind of area. Really good to recruit young talent out of college. So I think it's a really good spot for that, hyper growth mid-market broker that's looking to scale. So see those popping up everywhere, I feel like.
Yeah.
A lot of warehousing opportunities there. So you're seeing some trucking companies that are going in and purchasing real estate and warehouses. Yeah.
I mean,
Or some biggest names in Warsaw, Poland.
Yeah.
Lancer. The largest Lancer agency.
Is it?
They're located in Warsaw.
Really?
Really?
That's funny.
wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talent in Poland. Poland is climbing through all the ranks. I've been watching so many YouTube videos about
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot, might move there.
I came last year in May and we hung out, and then we went to Albania. That was actually a lot of fun.
I bet that's amazing.
Yeah, it was it's beautiful out there.
That sounds like we need to open an office in
Paul, I'm
Poland.
coming. Yeah, there. That's great. OTR Poland.
OTR Poland.
That's right.
OTR Poland.
Well, go global.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul set it up. Find him an offer.
All right, there you go.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, let's get going to TIA Media Day.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Good stuff.
Let's
Appreciate it,
have
man.
fun.
Thank you,
I'll
Jim.
see you on the
Absolutely.
lazy river.
Let's go hit the slide.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
Go hit the water park.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. Go.
Thanks, guys.